Shocking moment. Millionaire's home invaded at 3 a.m. Little girl's terrifying Plea haunts forever. The clock struck 3 in the dead of night, silence enveloping the sprawling mansion like a suffocating shroud. A sudden crash shattered the stillness, echoing through rooms adorned with priceless art and gleaming marble floors. In the nursery, a little girl stirred in her sleep, her dreams invaded by an unsettling presence, shadows beckoning her to wake. Outside, the moon hung eerily low, casting an unnatural glow that seemed to dance with foreboding. Her heart raced as she pushed aside her fluffy pink blanket, the room cold, as if it were a different world. She squinted through the darkness, catching a glimpse of a figure tall and menacing, a silhouette painted by her worst fears. In that moment, her innocence collided violently with reality. With a voice barely more than a whisper, she called out, "Mommy?" The pleading echoed around her, colliding with the chilling winds outside, leaving a knot tightening in her throat. As the figure crept closer, a shiver ran down her spine, waking the remnants of sleep from her 5-year-old mind. She wasn't sure whether to scream or run, frozen as the figure loomed closer, shuffling stealthily across the plush carpet, each footfall sending tremors of frantic energy through her small body. She wished for her teddy bear, the one that always chased away nightmares, but it felt so far away now, lost in the shadows. And then, in a moment that felt both like an eternity and an instant, the figure stopped. A flash of recognition lit the girl's wide eyes as she uttered a sound of pure terror, a chilling plea that would echo in the halls of that house long after the night ended. Footsteps approached from the other side of the hallway, the muffled sound of panic breaking through the calm night as the girl sensed the second presence. It was her father, leaping into action, but would he make it in time? Would she be saved from the shadows creeping at the edge of her world? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Meanwhile, as the father rushed towards the nursery, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his chest, he caught sight of something, a flash of metal glinting under the moonlight that seeped through the curtains. A chill ran through him. His instincts screamed danger. What had he let into his home? Time stretched, each second hanging thick with tension as the little girl let out a shaky breath, fear still dancing in her eyes. And then, just before the father crossed into the nursery, the lights flickered once, twice, and plunged them into a heart-stopping darkness. What happened next would change their lives forever, but as the shadows converged, both parent and child stood at the precipice of something terrifying and unknown. In the suffocating darkness, an unsettling silence enveloped the nursery. The air felt electrified, thick with fear and uncertainty. Heartbeats drummed loudly in the void, sounding like thunderclaps in an almost grave stillness. The girl held her breath, praying that each second ticked by without incident, but the shadow loomed like a predator, waiting to pounce. Her father, caught in his own struggle against instinct, had just crossed the threshold of the darkened room. He could barely see a thing, yet the hairs on his neck stood on end. He whispered her name, Elena, but it came out as a desperate rasp. Silence swallowed his words whole, amplifying the dread that pulsed in his veins. Suddenly, a sound, a whisper tinged with malice, slithered through the air. A dark figure moved, causing the faint outline of the moonlit window to distort. The father's heart sank as the realization hit him. There was no mistake. The threat was real. He lunged forward, seeking the source of the movement, his hands outstretched to protect his little girl. "Stay behind me," he shouted, his voice breaking through the gloom. The little girl clutched her teddy bear, still trembling, but not ready to let go of the comfort the toy provided. Time slowed. The figure materialized out of the shadows, revealing a face twisted in a sinister grin, a stranger with glinting eyes and a wicked sneer that crushed any semblance of safety in the room. Elena gasped, her tiny hands clenching around the bear. With instinct driving him, the father lunged forward, fueled by fear and desperation. He didn't care about the risk. He needed to shield his daughter. Swinging wildly, he collided with the intruder. A flurry of movements ensued, punches thrown, then dodged. The air sparked, crackled with violence as both men grappled in a whirlwind of chaos.
"Get out!
Get out of my house!" he yelled, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The intruder's laughter echoed in a chilling cadence, making the room pulse with inexplicable terror. Each moment stretched on forever. Every breath became a struggle against the chaos, but as the struggle reached its crescendo, the lights flickered back on, bright and unforgiving. What happened next froze the scream in his throat. The room was illuminated, revealing not just the fight, but something far more harrowing. There was more than one intruder, and they were encircling the nursery, eyes glittering with malicious intent. Panic surged as he turned to look at Elena. She was wide-eyed, frozen in terror. The tiny figure in pink PJs stood next to her beloved bear. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. Everything felt as if it could unravel in an instant. Before he could react, the lead intruder spoke, voice dripping with honeyed malevolence. "You really ought to be more careful. This time, it's not just a visit." The father's blood ran cold. The implications of those words crashed over him like a wave. They were here for more than a robbery. All at once, the room erupted with chaos. The father instinctively shielded his daughter, positioning himself between her and potential danger. But as the shadows surged, a part of him whispered bitterly that he might be too late. Then everything went black again. The lights flickered, thicker darkness swallowing them whole. Their fate teetered precariously on the edge of the night's uncertainty, where shadows danced and secrets whispered. What the father didn't realize was that this was just the beginning. Darkness concealed secrets deeper and more sinister than he could ever imagine. Would he find a way to protect Elena? Or would the encroaching dread engulf them both? As the world slipped beneath the veil of darkness, a chilling question hung in the air. What awaited them on the other side? The darkness clung to them, an inky veil filled with the weight of dread. Even in this void, Elena could feel her father's warmth rise against the chill of fear. She squeezed her teddy bear tighter, its familiar form a fragile barrier of comfort. But terror twisted its grip around her heart like a vice, and anxiety curled in her stomach, tightening with every tortured second. The father felt the shadows press in. He mentally scoured the room, each corner a potential hiding place. A part of him wanted to scream, to release the pent-up fear. But he didn't. Every ounce of his being was concentrated on one fragile objective: protect Elena. Then, without warning, the lights cast their brutal brightness once more. The room shimmered back into view, unveiling the harrowing tableau. There were 6 figures. Each one masked, wrapped in dark clothing, eyes gleaming with a terrifying mixture of hunger and malice. They laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers racing down the father's spine. Each laugh felt like a whispered death sentence. "Did you really think you could hide?" The lead intruder mused, his smile widening as he stepped forward. "We've been waiting for this moment. Leave us alone," the father shouted, his voice cracking with raw emotion. "I swear I'll call the cops." "Oh, we're counting on you trying," the intruder taunted. His eyes flared with wicked delight. "But you'll quickly find out how pointless that hope is." Panic rose in the father's throat. He glanced back at Elena, seeing those innocent eyes wide and full of fear. Instantly, he felt foolish. His threats were nothing but powerless sound against the menacing dark. Every minute they lingered there sapped his resolve, taunting him, pushing the effort of his heart toward crushing despair. Then something shifted within him. It was a spark born of desperation, a light ready to push against the darkness. He moved a step forward, arms tight, ready to fight. "You want us? Then you'll have to go through me first." The intruders exchanged gleeful looks, mockery etched in their faceless masks. "How noble of you, Daddy," the lead one sneered, suddenly grabbing a silver object from behind his waist, a knife, reflecting vicious shards of light. Time slowed again. Seconds stretched painfully. The blade shimmered, an omen of impending violence. "What are you going to do? Stab me? You don't even know how to use that thing," the father taunted back, venom mixed with fright. "You'd be surprised what I can do, and the thrill of the chase only makes it all the more exciting." The words dripped with sadistic pleasure. Then it happened. One figure lunged forward, while the others fanned out, closing the space around them like a tightening noose. There was no way out. The father felt despair claw at his throat, the terror of being too late swelling within him. But then something unexpected. The lights flickered again, plunging them into dark chaos momentarily. In the split second without vision, he turned to Elena. "Listen, sweetie, I need you to be brave, okay?" "Daddy, I'm scared," she whispered, her voice trembling. His heart shattered at her words, but he quickly whispered, "Just keep holding your bear tight. You're stronger than this, and I love you. No matter what happens." The lights burst back on, flickering worse than before. The intruders stood poised for an attack, but panic flashed in their expressions. A loud bang resonated from the hallway just outside the nursery, a sound like the crack of thunder that jolted their focus away. "What was that?" one of the intruders hissed, glancing towards the door. Fear settled into the father's gut. An unexpected ally? Or a trap? Elena squeezed her bear, her eyes darting between her father and the masked men. The urgency pulsed around them, setting their breaths in sync. The father knew this was their chance, perhaps the only one they would get. In that tenuous moment, adrenaline surged through him. He crouched lower, muscles coiling as he prepared for the fight of their lives, but as he took a steadying breath, they turned again. He wasn't ready for what their next move would be. What would those outside bring with them? The question echoed in the nursery. Was he prepared to face whatever was about to emerge from the shadows? The tension crackled in the air like electricity, stretching the moment thin. The sound from the hallway roared again, this time a fierce crash, and it jolted the masked figures from their grim calculations. The father felt the moment slip through his fingers, an opening born of confusion among their attackers. "Stay close, Elena," he barked, eyes darting to the door. His heart raced, pumping fury and fear as the intruders began to hesitate. They exchanged quick glances, eyes glimmering with uncertainty behind the fabric of their masks. It seemed that the darkness wasn't the only force to be reckoned with tonight. Another crash echoed, this time followed by hurried footsteps, but they weren't trying to silence themselves. Someone was coming, somebody who might be able to help. Or worse, someone who could turn this already disastrous situation into absolute hell. "Go see who that is," the lead man ordered, and a smaller figure quickly peeled away, darting toward the door like a wisp. The father felt his stomach churn. He couldn't let them get away, not while Elena was there. "Come back," he shouted, a primal instinct pushing his voice to a dizzying height. Elena trembled beside him, clutching her bear as if it could shield them from everything the night had unleashed. His protective instincts raged. He had to move, had to act before the horrifying reality they faced amplified beyond what he could imagine. The intruder nearing the door paused. "I'll see who it is," he sneered, trying to regain his authority. He reached for the knob with a deliberate slowness, a grimace of anticipation spreading across his features. Time stopped again. The father lunged forward with a primal scream, no longer thinking of consequences or fear. He launched himself into the advancing figure, a collision of flesh and desperation. They crashed to the ground, a flurry of limbs and panicked breath. "No!" shouted the lead man, lunging toward them just as the door swung wide open. A beam of cold light flooded in, and the father felt a flicker of hope. The intense beam illuminated the chaos. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the glow. "Get back!" the newcomer shouted, wielding a flashlight like a sword, stepping forward with fierce determination. In that split second, everything blurred. The intruders recoiled, eyes wide, stumbling back as they scrambled for cover, A brief standoff hung in the air as brightness clashed against the oppressive shadows. "I called the police," the unexpected ally yelled. "You're not going to get away with this." The father grasped the moment with frantic resolve. "Help us," he cried, standing tall despite every fear that tried to bring him down. The fight had ignited inside him, fueled by the burning need to protect his daughter. But the masked men weren't finished. Frustration twisted their faces, and they shared a desperate, silent agreement. Two rushed forward to tackle the newcomer, while the others seemed poised to flank him in a deadly game of numbers. With a swift movement, the father leaped to protect Elena, shielding her with his body as chaos erupted around them. The space trembled with the violent contradiction of resolve and despair, and the world spun into a frenzy. Shouts blended with the sound of flesh meeting flesh, and the father felt each impact reverberate through him, a harbinger of everything that was at stake. But just as hope began to dawn, the lead intruder slipped into view behind the fray, knife glinting ominously in the chaos. The father's breath hitched. He could see it clearly now, the savage intent sparkling in the dark intruder's eyes, the final game afoot, and he understood there would be no turning back from this moment. All at once, it hit him. As desperate as the situation felt, he couldn't let fear win. Something in him erupted, a defiance that could change everything. But would it? Would he rise to the occasion, or fall into the insatiable abyss? The question loomed heavy, the blade ready to strike, and the chaos intensifying around them. What would he do next? The father's instincts kicked in. Every muscle in his body coiled, ready. Ignoring the chaos swirling around him, he felt a surge of adrenaline rush through him. He couldn't let the darkness win. Not tonight. He turned sharply, letting go of his protective grip on Elena just long enough to pull a heavy lamp off the nearby table. The porcelain base felt solid in his hands, a beacon of hope amidst the terror. He swung it around, positioning it between himself and the approaching threat. "Back off," he yelled, the sound choking in his throat. He raised the lamp high, feeling the weight of its ceramic heft as he aimed it at the glimmering knife. The lead intruder halted in his tracks, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his masked face. For just a heartbeat, the father sensed the tide of power shifting. The intruder, taken aback by this unexpected defense, hesitated. That brief moment gave the father just enough time to turn and look at Elena. Her eyes were wide, reflecting fear and a desperate need for safety. "Stay behind me," he shouted, pushing the lamp further out as the intruder started to move again. This time, the father was ready. With a sudden, primal roar, he charged. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for her, the warmth of their home, the laughter that had filled these walls just hours before. The masked man lunged forward, his knife slicing through the air, but the father was there, the lamp connecting hard with the man's head. The intruder stumbled back, gasping as pain coursed through him. The father seized the opportunity, shoving past him toward the door, where the remaining masked men gave a momentary pause. He could see the shadow moving, a figure falling, and adrenaline surged. Blood thudded in his ears as he pushed for the exit, his voice a raw edge of desperation. "Run, Elena. I'll hold them off." He barely recognized his own voice. It was filled with urgency, a father's outcry mingling with his instinct to protect. Elena didn't question him. She darted deeper into the house, small feet carrying her past the chaos to moments when innocence reigned. Behind him, the world exploded. Shouts of anger erupted. The lead man pushed himself up, fury igniting his features. The father could feel the shadows closing in. He had one last chance. His heart pounded as he glanced back, fear and rage in a deadly dance. Two of the intruders lunged toward him, knives glinting in the dim light, eyes filled with a horrifying intent that promised to sweep up everything he loved. The father's breath caught in his throat. It was now or never. He slammed the door hard against one intruder, sending him sprawling, while the other came swiping with the knife. The father ducked low, feeling the air of the blade sweep just above his head. Then, rage rose up to meet him. He pushed with everything he had, bringing his shoulder square against the adversary's chest. But the fight could only last so long. As he shoved the man aside, he sensed a creeping shadow behind him. It was there, a second figure, looming with malicious intensity. He could almost feel the breath of the blade, the violence unyielding as it swished through the air.
"No!"
he shouted, but there was no time. Suddenly, Elena's voice broke through the tension.
"Daddy!"
The father turned toward her, just for a second, but that second shattered everything. He was distracted, caught between his daughter's call and the emerging danger closing in on him. And in that crucial moment, everything teetered on the edge of oblivion, leaving him wondering, would he ever see his daughter escape? The storm of chaos lingered. The night thickened around them with dread, painting a picture of twisted shadows and heart-stopping moments. What would the father choose as the darkness cloaked him? Would he sacrifice his path to safety to ensure Elena's escape? The fate of them both hung precariously in the balance, threatening to plunge into the depths of nightmare or ignite a flicker of hope. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him like wildfire, igniting every nerve as he spun back toward the threat. Time stretched, and the air thickened with impending violence. The second intruder, masked and wild-eyed, lunged at him from the shadows. The father was now a man on the edge, teetering between desperation and fury. Elena's terrified cry echoed in his ears, pulling him from the haze of combat.
"Daddy!"
It lodged itself in his throat like a jagged stone, a reminder of what truly mattered. He tightened his grip on the lamp, swinging it with all his might just as the intruder's knife came swooping in again. Metal met ceramic with a crack that split through the air, reverberating all around them. The intruder yelped, stumbling back, but his eyes burned with rage and uncontrollable fury that sparked a deeper fear in the father. "Stay back!" he bellowed once more, heart racing, his world narrowing to the beat of his pulse. "Get away from my daughter!" Behind him, Elena's small footsteps faded into the depths of the house. He couldn't see her, but he could feel her presence like a fire behind him. Her safety was his salvation. The lead intruder regained his footing, eyes glinting dangerously through the mask. "You think you can protect her? This is your last stand." His voice was laced with venom, each word dripping with wicked delight. Gritting his teeth, the father pivoted, ready to face whatever darkness awaited. Suddenly, a crash broke through the air, the sound of something being thrown against the wall. The house felt alive with tension, walls closing in as adrenaline drove him to keep fighting. Two more figures appeared at the periphery, flickering in and out of the shadows, coming to reinforce their leader. Panic surged, threatening to overwhelm him. His instinct screamed for him to run, to flee deeper into the house where he hoped he could find Elena. But he wouldn't just abandon his ground. Not now. Not like this. He stepped forward, lamp still raised, challenging them with unwavering resolve. The intruders circled him, coiling like wolves preparing for the kill. He glimpsed past them as flashes of movement caught his eye. A disturbance, the tension in the air shifting. "Elena!" he shouted, an immediate surge of panic bursting forth. He turned, searching the hallway for any sign of her, straining to hear her small voice over the screams of chaos. "Stay hidden. I'm coming." Then, from behind him, one of the intruders lunged. He felt the whoosh of air, the piercing sound of metal slicing through it. Instinct kicked in. He dropped, rolling away just in time. The knife barely missed him, glinting ominously in the dim light as the father came back to his feet. He swung the lamp on reflex, connecting again with an arc of desperate hope. The man crumpled, but the others pressed forward, grinning wickedly as they closed in on him. "You can't win, hero," the lead intruder shouted, desperation melded with cruel amusement. "This ends tonight." The father's breaths came in sharp gasps, each second blurring into the next. He was running out of strength, but one thing was certain: he would not let these monsters snuff out the light of his daughter. Just then, from the corner of his eye, he caught a flicker of movement, a shadow darting across the wall. His heart plummeted. "Elena!" he yelled again, fear slicing through him like the knife in the intruder's hands. Time stretched once more, every heartbeat echoing the uncertainty of their fate. Where was she? Rage and dread danced within him, shaking him to the core. Panic surged, nearly blinding him now. The fight wasn't over. It was spiraling out of control, spinning like a wheel careening toward the inevitable. As the darkness closed in, he desperately searched the room, knowing that her survival depended on the choices he had left. Could he fight them off? Could he protect her? And in this moment of dread and uncertainty, a chilling silence fell, a sudden pause before conversation twisted back into a horrifying reality. Would he find her before it was too late? Or was he already standing at the precipice of a nightmare he couldn't escape? He felt the weight of despair heavy on his chest, every breath now a struggle. The shadows danced menacingly around him, and the lead intruder advanced, the knife glinting anew. His heart thundered, each beat echoing in the vast silence of his thoughts. "Where is she?" he growled, his voice raw and desperate, searching every corner of the room in a frantic hope. But the answer was only silence. The intruders moved like predators, eluding his vision, each flick of a knife sending spirals of terror through him. In an instant, they lunged as one, grinning, taunting. It was a calculated attack, and he was the prey. He swung the lamp, connecting with one of them. The figure flew back, slamming against the wall, and the sound was satisfying, but the moment was fleeting. He couldn't dwell on it. There were still two beside the lead intruder, and they only advanced. The father felt like a cornered animal, blood pounding in his ears. "You'll pay for this. I swear." His words were a hollow promise, but he felt the anger building, a spark in the darkness.
"Pay?"
The lead intruder laughed, a cruel laugh that sliced through the tension. "You've got nothing to bargain with, old man. Your kid? She's already lost." Panic clawed at him, and he couldn't help but glance back towards the hallway. Where was she? Every second that passed was a reminder of his failure. Elena's name hung on his lips, a haunting melody that twisted with guilt and fear. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. The father froze. Had Elena made a noise? He strained to hear, heart sinking. The silence returned, pregnant with dread, turning seconds into an eternity. "Don't look so worried," the lead intruder sneered, stepping closer. "Maybe she's making friends upstairs. I hear the attic has a great view, if you can find it." Faced with that taunt, he became a man possessed. A flame ignited within him. He could not fail. Not now, not ever. With every ounce of strength left, he pushed forward, ready to take down the dangling knife of fate. He swung again, this time connecting with the lead intruder's shoulder, but it wasn't enough to keep him down. The intruder stumbled, but didn't fall. He grinned, teeth bared, blood trickling from the cut. "You're strong, I'll give you that. But strength alone won't save your girl." The threat hung heavy in the air. The father's eyes hardened. "I will not let you hurt her." "No, but think of the fun we'll have trying." The intruder charged at him, and a primal instinct took over. He dodged to the side, feeling the wind of a slashing knife just inches from his cheek. But before he could regain his balance, another figure darted in, tackling him from the side and sending him crashing into the floor. Pain shot through him, sharp and unyielding. He struggled against the weight on top of him. The lamp rolled away, extinguishing his light, and he screamed Elena's name again, a desperate shout echoing through the suffocating darkness. Then, a faint sound broke through, a small voice, barely a whisper, emanating from somewhere above.
"Daddy."
It was her. Relief flooded him, followed by a surge of fierce desperation. He had to reach her. With a rush of strength fueled by love, he wriggled free from his attacker, elbowing desperately before rolling onto his feet. He glanced up, eyes wide, and scanning the dimly lit stairs. "Elena, I'm coming." But as he rushed forward, he heard laughter from behind. The lead intruder stood, knife poised, ready to strike one final blow. Too little, too late. With horrified clarity, the father recognized the depth of the trap laid before him. Was this the moment he would lose everything? As he braced for impact, a sudden crash echoed through the house again, this time louder and more violent. The intruders faltered, momentarily distracted. What was that sound? Time snapped like a broken string, and in that instant, the father prepared himself for whatever chaos lay beyond. Would he confront another threat, or was salvation finally finding its way home? As shadows shifted ominously yet again, he realized one thing: nothing was over.
Yet.
Not by a long shot. A sudden roar of splintering wood echoed through the house, shaking the very foundations of his fear. The father turned toward the noise, instincts sharpening. The intruders stumbled back, glancing at each other in confusion, their once menacing voicing giving way to uncertainty. "It's nothing," the lead intruder said, his bravado cracking slightly. "Let us finish this." But the tension in the air shifted. A shiver ran down the father's spine as he felt the atmosphere change, as if the very walls of the house were warning him something was about to break free. "Stay away from her," he shouted again, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He lunged forward, eyes darting to the staircase leading to the upper levels, where Elena's soft voice still lingered, a haunting echo that made him feel both grounded and desperate. Silence fell, heavy and thick, surrounding them like a thick fog. He could hear only his rapid breaths, the thumping of his heart. Then, like thunder, the door to the attic burst open.
"Dad."
Elena's voice rang out, alive with alarm. With a rush, she darted down the narrow staircase, hair wild, eyes wide. The father's body froze momentarily, an overwhelming mix of relief and anxiety flooding him. But the intruders had seen her too. Look who decided to join the party. The lead intruder sneered, his knife glistening threateningly.
"No."
The father screamed, rushing towards her, fear propelling him forward, strength binding him. Elena didn't falter. Instead, she paused just a moment on the last step, her small frame trembling but fierce. "I'm not afraid," she declared, voice unyielding in the face of chaos. But the father knew better.
"Get back."
"Get to the kitchen," he yelled, desperation bleeding into his tone. In a split-second decision, Elena turned and bolted the opposite way. "I will. Just be safe." The lead intruder moved, knife slicing through the air aimed directly at the father's heart. "You'll regret that." "No time to think." The father saw reckless fury blur his vision as he barreled into the intruder, knocking him off balance. The knife narrowly missed him as it sailed past, striking the wall with a sickening thud.
"Get down,"
he roared, adrenaline surging through him like fire. He wrestled with the intruder, muscles straining against the weight of his panic. The echoes of the laughter, the taunting words twisted around him like chains he had to break free. The struggle collapsed into a chaotic flurry. They fell to the ground, the lead intruder grunting as the father's fists connected with his face. Blinding flashes of fury fueled him. Every punch was laden with years of love, fear, and overwhelming resolve. Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from the kitchen, a sound like a thunderbolt splitting the tension. Both men turned their heads, breaths stilled in disbelief. What was happening? From the shadows emerged a figure, a silhouette large and looming, crowned by a wild mane of dark hair. The father's heart raced, panic mixing with a flicker of hope. As the figure stepped into the scant light, a familiar face revealed itself, but it was one the father was not expecting. Standing there, wild-eyed and grinning, was the neighbor, a hulking man with a furious expression. Did someone call for backup? Before the father could utter a single word, the whole situation spiraled again as the intruder launched himself towards the neighbor, the knife dancing in the air like a snake ready to strike. Time seemed to slow, every move calculated, yet chaotic. Where was Elena? Fear surged through the father again. He couldn't let either of them fall prey. "Stay back," he screamed, dread cloaking him as he fought to keep everyone he loved safe. The knife clashed against the neighbor's arm, sending a spray of blood into the air. A howl escaped from the intruder, but his attention split. Now there were two men against him, and the father wasn't about to lose. Would they overpower him, or would darkness claim all? The question hung heavy as he prepared for the next move. The chaos was far from over, and he could feel it in his bones. This nightmare was only just beginning. What else lay just beyond the door, waiting to enter? The clash echoed through the dimly lit room, a brutal symphony of chaos as the father fought to wrestle the intruder down. Blood smeared on the floor, an ominous testament to the peril they all faced. The neighbor staggered, clutching his wounded arm, but determination burned in his eyes. "I'm fine," he barked, waving off the father's concern. "Keep him off me." The lead intruder, momentarily dazed, twisted away, bringing the blade around like a lightning strike. Adrenaline coursed through the father's veins as he leaped, intercepting the blow just in time. The knife grazed his side, sharp and unforgiving. Pain shot through him, but he bit it back, focusing on the thread in front of him.
Get out! Get out now!
The father shouted, his voice hoarse and strained as the neighbor dove into the fray, tackling the intruder with sheer force. They wrestled on the ground, both grunting and cursing, limbs tangling in a desperate struggle for survival. "Elena!" Panic clawed at the father's heart. "Elena!" he yelled, fear slicing through him. "Where are you?" There was no answer, only the sound of scuffling. The noise from the kitchen had faded, reality pricking at his skin like 1,000 needles. He needed her safe. He needed to end this now. With a surge of raw power, he pinned the intruder's arm back and wrested the knife away, tossing it aside like a snake that had lost its venom. But victory was short-lived. The intruder, fueled by rage, kicked the father in the gut, sending him sprawling backward. Gasping, the father struggled to breathe as everything around him blurred. He could see the neighbor grappling with the man, both crashing against the furniture. It was sheer madness. The front door creaked open just then, a murmur slicing through the tight knot of tension. "Elena!" A voice questioned uncertainly.
Get back!
The father roared, finally finding his feet. But just as he regained his composure, the sound of shuffling feet came through the hallway and a small shadow emerged from the kitchen doorway.
Dad?
Elena's voice trembled, a whisper that barely carried over the chaos. Relief flooded him.
Get back!
"Stay away from here." But as he turned to rush towards her, the lead intruder sprang up like a coiled snake, his face twisted with anger. The father's heart sank when he saw the intruder's hand reach for a second knife, hidden in the waistband.
Don't you even think about it!
The neighbor yelled, lunging towards the intruder, but too late. Time stretched again as desperation surged. The father dashed to the side, but the knife flew, glinting ominously against the flickering light.
No!
His scream echoed, but all he could do was watch as Elena's eyes widened, horror painted across her face. In that moment, the world shrank to the razor edge of fear. As the knife sailed through the air, every heartbeat echoed louder than thunder. Then, a punch broke the spell. The neighbor's fist connected with the intruder's jaw, sending him reeling back. The knife struck the wall with a sickening thud, the air crackling with tension. Elena's voice cut through the silence. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine. Just stay behind me," he shouted back, his focus unyielding. The fight was not over. The neighbor seized on the opportunity, wrestling power back into the room. "We have to move," he grunted, both men now struggling against the frenzied intruder. But as they fought, another sound rang out from deep within the house, a low, haunting growl that snaked through the air, chilling their spines. It echoed like a promise of worse to come. What was that? The father gasped, fear gripping his throat. A shadow loomed again at the edge of the doorway, flickering into view. It paused, hovering just out of the light, and dread washed over him. Something was coming. Something worse than they had faced already, and that something was hungry for chaos. What awaited them in the darkened corners of their home? The storm of chaos in the nursery clawed at every nerve, but the father held fast to the flickering hope within him. The confrontation spiraled into a whirlwind of fists and cries as the lead intruder staggered, muscles straining and eyes wide with astonishment. In that moment, he found clarity, a glimmer of purpose rising above the suffocating dread. "Get away from us," he roared, his voice cutting through the noise. Filled with raw determination, he surged forward, pushing back against the intruders encroaching on their lives. Each strike of his fists became more than just movements, they were declarations of love and courage, driven by the need to protect his daughter. As the struggle intensified, he caught sight of Elena, standing frozen in the doorway, wide-eyed and terrified. Panic gripped his heart. "Elena, go!" he shouted, urgency crashing against the walls of his resolve. "Run to the neighbors.
Now."
But the little girl stood, rooted in horror, clutching her teddy bear even tighter.
"Daddy!"
she cried, voice trembling, overwhelmed by fear. Time slowed, and in that agonizing moment, the father felt the weight of everything crashing down. He was torn between the fight still raging before him and the desperate need to keep her safe. "You have to trust me. I'll be right there." Elena hesitated, fear keeping her feet planted, but suddenly, the neighbor burst into view bearing down on the lead intruder with sheer force fueled by adrenaline. "I'm not letting him hurt you," he roared, tackling the intruder to the ground, their bodies colliding like titans in a storm. The father seized the split-second chance.
"Go!"
he yelled once more, not allowing uncertainty to creep into his tone. It pierced through Elena's fear, breaking the paralysis. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, and darted toward the open door, her small form a flicker of hope surging through the growing shadows. She escaped, and with that little spark, a fire ignited in the father's chest. He turned back to the fray, anger boiling within him. "You want to touch my family," he thundered, launching himself back into the melee. As fists flew and bodies slammed against walls, the room erupted with chaos. Each breath, each scream, became a testament to their will to survive. The neighbor maneuvered beside him, buttressing his fight as together they formed a solid wall against their attackers. "We need to end this," he shouted, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. With newfound strength and the urgency of protecting what mattered, the father swiped at the lead intruder, connecting with a brutal jab that sent him stumbling back, gasping. In that moment of chaos, the intruder's mask slipped slightly, revealing a face twisted with anger and desperation, eyes glinting with deception. Blackness washed over the room, but this time brought forth a different kind of clarity. The father seized a nearby chair, brandishing it like a sword. "This is your last chance to run." He thrust it forward as if it were an extension of his own willpower. His heart raced as he prepared for the next strike, but before he could engage further, sirens blared beyond the walls of their home, a distant wail that sliced through the darkness, igniting both fear and hope within the intruders. "The cops are here," they shouted, panic flickering in their eyes as they exchanged alarmed glances. On the ground, "Hands up," came a voice from outside, booming and authoritative. In that crucial moment, the lead intruder lunged again, desperate to grapple one last ounce of control. The father swung the chair, connecting with a solid thud against the intruder's ribs. He crumpled to the ground, and the world began to spin back into focus.
"Get out!"
the neighbor shouted, scrambling to help the fallen father to his feet. Together, they pushed the remaining attackers toward the doorway, shadows scattering into the night as uncertainty flickered in the air. Finally, the police burst into the room, lights flashing, voices calling out. The father felt the heaviness of fear slip away, replaced by a rush of relief that washed over him like a tide. He collapsed to his knees, panting, and glanced at the open door, where Elena peered back, eyes shining with tears yet glowing with relief. "Daddy," she breathed, and he reached for her, pulling her close, wrapping his arms around her small frame as fury and tenderness collided inside him. "We're okay, sweetheart," he reassured, swallowing hard against the overwhelming wave of relief that rolled through. The intruders had been apprehended, and the nightmare was finally dissipating. The police secured the scene, and as they filed statements, the family gathered in a corner of their home, safe for now. Elena hugged her teddy bear, innocent yet shaken. "You saved me," she whispered. "With all my heart," he replied, his voice choked with gratitude. knowing that nothing mattered more than keeping her safe. In the quiet that followed, the father held his daughter close, feeling the warmth of her small body against the chaos that had just unfolded. They would endure, bond stronger than ever, hearts woven together in the face of darkness. When the police finally left, the house felt eerily silent. The father gazed at his daughter, her breathing slow and steady, finally free from fear's grip. "Let us go to bed, Elena.
Tomorrow, we take back our lives."
As they ascended the stairs, this time there were no shadows waiting, just the soft canvas of night and the promise of tomorrow. "This was our story tonight," he whispered to her, "but our next chapter begins now." And with that, they stepped into a future where love conquered all fear. Now, before you guys go, make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. I want to hear your thoughts, reactions, and theories. Flood the comment section because your voice matters. And for your true friends out there, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion.